Thanks so much to all of you for sending in your photos. This has been a really busy week for many of us getting started with school and other fall activities. Hope you are all doing well and keeping your ears and eyes open for cool things going on in nature. Amara and Pamela visited Greenwood Conservation Area in Ajax. This is part of a wonderful system of green spaces flanking the creeks of Ajax. Duffin's Creek runs through Greenwood. Amara and Pamela found this fungus that looks like Amanita flaviconia. The flecks on the top are typical of Amanita, although we can't see the ring on the stalk or the bulb on the bottom very clearly. We are used to thinking of tree roots collecting water and nutrients from the soil. However, the roots of each tree are connected to hundreds of thousands of kilometers of fungal threads called hyphae that extend through the soil and extend the reach of the roots. And these hyphae do the collecting for the roots. The fungal hyphae trade the water and nutrients they collect for sugar the trees make in their leaves and store in their roots. Amanita mushrooms are the fruiting bodies of fungi that are super important to both deciduous and coniferous trees and do a lot of water and nutrient collecting for them. We call these type of fungi mycorrhizal fungi. So that's what this Amanita is. Amara also found this giant puffball. Giant puffballs can get really huge, weighing many kilograms. They are also fungi, although they look completely different from a mushroom or a bracket fungus we might see growing on a tree. What is different about them? All fungi make spores. Spores are a bit like seeds in that they leave the original fungus and start the process of making a new fungus somewhere else. In mushrooms, these spores grow on the gills and drop to the ground or get blown around by the wind. In bracket fungi, these are on the little tubes on the underside of the bracket. In puffballs, the spores line the inside of the ball. The outer surface of the puffball eventually cracks and breaks off as it dries, and the spores blow out. Last week, Sonia submitted a photo of a red mushroom, which we didn't spend much time on. It is actually worth returning to, so we have included it in this slideshow again. I'm pretty sure this mushroom is called the dark-stalked bolete. Boletes are a strange fungus that are halfway between a mushroom and a bracket fungus. They have a stalk and cap like a gilled mushroom, but tubes rather than gills on the underside like a bracket fungus. They are soft and squishy, so they are sometimes called sponge mushrooms. Thanks to Olga and Daria for this adorable picture of the squirrel eating a pine cone. They eat these like corn on the cob. Once Jim was standing under a tree and there was a shower of scales falling on his hat like rain. A squirrel was ripping off the scales and picking out the individual seeds. It's funny how the core looks like the cob after someone has eaten the corn. You can see the cob here, the core. Daria also sent in this photo of what looks like the remains of an osprey nest. They build these loose structures on top of very high posts, sometimes lamp posts. You have to wonder if that crane was still long enough for the nest to ever get used. We visited our island property in Northumberland County this past weekend and witnessed an air show in the shallow river that runs around one side of the island. There were probably 1,000 red-winged blackbirds flying in formation, doing loops and curves as the sun went down. Red-winged blackbirds are quite secretive after the breeding season. They abandon their territories and hang out in cattail marshes where they molt their feathers and get a whole new set of feathers. Then they regroup in these very large flocks, often shortly before migration. And you wonder if they are practicing for migration. It's hard to say what they're doing. This flower is called closed gentian. I was very happy to find it growing near a trail on our island. This flower doesn't open, strangely enough, until it is forced open by a very strong bee. This genus, gentian, is named after a king who lived in the Balkans from around 500 BC. He discovered that the roots of the gentian had anti-malaria properties, which he was able to harvest the roots and give this to his soldiers, and it staved off malaria in his army. We stumbled across this praying mantis having her lunch. She was initially hanging upside down, which is how they hunt, and had caught this grasshopper. It might seem cruel that she is eating the grasshopper while it is still moving. However, it is probable that the grasshopper died at the first chomp of the mantis. How do we know this? When the mantis turns around on my hand, we see something. The mantis has bitten into the underside of the grasshopper. We see a dark tube on the back of the grasshopper. This is actually the esophagus. The nerve cord runs down the front of the grasshopper. This is, of course, upside down to the way our bodies are organized. When the mantis bit into the grasshopper, she actually severed the nerve cord. So even if the wings are still moving, the grasshopper would not have felt anything or have been alive. So you can see the actual esophagus there running down the back, and you can see the part of the stomach that she has chomped into. It's also quite fascinating how much her wings look like leaves and what an amazing camo job it is. And the grasshopper is actually also camouflaged in a completely different way, with browns and that make him fit into the grasses around him. Finally, I wanted to show you this picture of Bombus fervidus, the golden northern bumblebee. I was encouraged by our event with Sheila Cola talking to us in July to try and learn bumblebees and keep track of the ones we see on our property. It is our goal there to provide habitat for creatures that might be threatened, so we are very happy if we spot an insect at risk. Some of the things to look for if you are trying to identify bumblebees are the color of the face. Is it black or is it yellow? The shape of the black patch on the thorax. You can see here that the black stripe runs right across the thorax from one wing to the other. Sometimes it's just a spot, or sometimes the thorax is all yellow. And finally, we will look at the colors of the abdomen. And you can see that all of the segments of the abdomen are yellow. It can also be helpful to watch which plant they are on. We want to end today by sharing the website iNaturalist with you. It is a site where naturalists from all over the world post photos of what they have seen. Experts help them to verify that the photo is what the naturalist thought it was. So we are going to show you one way of using iNaturalist today. We are pretending that you have been to visit a conservation area or park and have seen some cool creatures. You want to know what those creatures are so you can learn more about them. When you go to the iNaturalist homepage, it will look like this. You can see we have a red arrow pointing at the word explore. So you're going to click on that word explore. You can see that you have an opportunity. The next screen that pops up, you have an opportunity in the top right hand corner to type in the place where you were. So we have typed in High Park, Toronto, Ontario, and then you click on the word go. And this will show you on the map of Toronto all the creatures that have been observed in High Park in all different colors, and this would be color coded for birds, mammals, insects, and so on. But that is way too many sightings for you to check. So what you want to do is type in filters. So to the right of the word go at the top, you have filters. And if you click on that word filters, it will give you the opportunity to add some filters to your search that will narrow down the number of sightings that they will actually show you. So the first thing you want to do is type in the day that you were there. So it gives you the opportunity to type in where the red arrow is, the exact date. So the day, the month, and the year. And then if you have, it's an insect that you found, or then you're going to click under categories, click the button insect. And then on the bottom left corner, you're going to type update search. On the final screen, it will give you a list to the right side of all of the insects that have been sighted in Hyde Park on that particular day. Then you can go through that list and see if you can find the insects that you have actually observed. So this is a very handy tool. Another way to use this is if you're planning an outing, you can go to that site, such as Pamela and Amara went to Greenwood Conservation Area, so they could go to iNaturalist and type in Greenwood as their destination, and it will give them all of the species that they are likely to see on that particular day of the year at Greenwood Conservation Area. So thank you very much, and have a great week.